Blog Talk Radio.
All right, race fans, y'all know what time it is. It's Race Chat Live. Glad to have y'all on board here tonight. Looking forward to a great show. We got power rankings to cover this evening, and that and a whole lot more. Of course, Kyle Larson coming off the win at Sonoma. Not much to talk about there. As a matter of fact, I think this is the first time that I've ever done two shows in a row with Kyle Larson being the victor. It's not that that I have any real vendetta against Kyle Larson. It's just that most of the time when Kyle Larson wins, he stinks up the show, and there's not much to talk about. But thank goodness what saved us this week is we have a little bit of power rankings to cover and all. We'll probably get out of here earlier than usual this evening. But, you know, of course, there's not been much silly season news other than the charter from Front Row Motorsports did sale. From Stuart Haas Racing did. Front Row Motorsports has been verified that they purchased somewhere in the range of $20 to $25 million there for that said charter. Yeah, Kyle Larson, other than Ty Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr., they both had good runs, their days were called early and short. So, Taz Taylor is here. Come on in, Taz. How you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad. I don't think Sonoma was. I think Sonoma was probably. I don't want to say like entertaining because it wasn't entertaining, but I don't think it was really a snooze fest if you think about it, because it wasn't one driver dominant. I mean, you had Logano leading the early laps or the early portion of that race, which was good to see because that hasn't been something we've seen all year long besides the All-Star race that he led every lap of. Then we had Tyler Reddick come in, which he had pressure from, I think, Chase Elliott, I think it was. Trying to remember who was. There was somebody right with Reddick was giving him a hard time. It might have been Chase Elliott. I'm trying to remember deeply, but I know Reddick had. I'm trying to remember hard of how much of Reddick, because he was leading the race pretty good at one point, and then he was fighting off some challenges. There was and towards the end of the race, it got to be strategy involved, because you had guys like Chris Buescher and Martin Truex Jr., in which Martin Truex Jr., not going to lie, put up a race in his own right, and I'll get to that in a bit here. But Buescher and Truex, they were on one strategy, and it seemed like both of them were going to finish 1-2 up until Larson, getting a little bit later, paid off in the end for him, in which, obviously, when you run a race solely on pit strategy, especially when it comes to road courses, strategy is key, and especially when you have the old tires versus new tires deal. And, I mean, Larson had, I think they said 10 to 15 laps fresher tires than Buescher and Truex did. So, obviously, it was a matter of time before Larson had caught up to the two of them. But I do want to touch up on Truex, because it seemed like he was running mid-pack to start with, which is pretty much where he qualified, which is not likely for him at Sonoma, being that he's won here numerous times before, especially with winning it last year. And then he got spun out in the middle of the race, which sent him back to the tail of the field, essentially. And then, of course, some of the incidents that happened benefited him in a way, so that got him some free spots, but also paid off for him too, because not only did he get some free spots because of the people involved in the incident, but some of the strategy him and his crew were playing out, it benefited him because he all of a sudden started coming through the field and looked like he was going to be the guy to beat up until the last stop, where he was 15 laps short, 15 laps older on tires than Kyle Larson was. And unfortunately for him, too, he ran out of fuel. And magically enough, he limped the car across the finish line.
Yeah, wasn't there a late caution thrown or something where the field was frozen there?
Yeah.
Did Martin Truex Jr. actually get a better finish because of that?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember where the caution was. Someone tells me it was Truex because he was off the pace, but I don't think he was the main caution. So obviously some of the cars had already crossed the finish line when the caution was thrown out. So whoever crossed the line, that was what NASCAR determined as those guys finished the race. The guys who did not finish, or who did not cross the finish line, the start-finish line, by the time the caution came out, they were based on when the caution was turned on or was basically out. So, Truex basically got the 27th place finish instead of getting, I think they were probably going to award him like 30-something or whatever.
33rd. Yes.
Yeah, Kyle Busch was in the same boat, but Kyle Busch benefited out of that by getting, I think, 3 spots better than where he was originally scored. Because Truex and Kyle Busch had the benefit of the caution.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't as boring of a Sonoma race as I think we've seen in the past, which is good. But I guess the race of the weekend was actually over in the Xfinity Series side, Taylor. Of course, our favorite Australian, I guess, our new favorite Australian.
Kiwi. The Kiwi. He's a New Zealander.
Yeah. Oh, New Zealander. Yeah, okay, New Zealander.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen. Did it again. He did it again.
Yeah, he's a New Zealander. Kiwi man.
You call him Kiwi man?
But Kiwi man. Like
Kiwi from New Zealand?
Football.
Oh, I thought you said Kiwi like the fruit.
Football. Well, New Zealand, I'm trying to think. No, there's like a Kiwi name attached to New Zealand. Like when I'll look it up at a later time, not on show, but they do call New Zealand people Kiwis or something like that. I have to find the cultural reasoning behind it. But
interesting.
Shane Van Gisbergen once again winning on a road course, and that's just showing that's just displaying where his strengths are. In all honesty. And I know people will sit here and say, well, he sucks on ovals or he's not doing great. In all honesty, I don't think he's doing terrible on ovals. I think he's doing better on ovals than I probably expected him to be.
For sure.
I do think eventually, if he keeps going with the Xfinity Series, some people believe he might be going up to Trackhouse for the Cup Series in the next year. But I don't know. I think Trackhouse will probably study him a little bit more if he does at least another year in Xfinity.
Yeah.
But I think SVG, I think he's doing a lot better than expected. I think eventually it will come around to him that he'll get a win, or at least compete for wins regularly on the ovals once he starts getting comfortable enough. Could be towards the end of this year. Could start next year. Who knows? He's surprising and turning a lot of heads.
Yes, the talent is definitely there. I can't believe we're talking about a guy who's not even had a full season in yet and has already got 2 wins. Though they are at road courses, it still is impressive, being that this guy had 0 experience in a stock car of this style, right? The car that he races is closer to the Cup car than it is the Xfinity car, but this guy's got 3 wins out of, 5 races in NASCAR? Out of 5 road course races? That's unbelievable. I don't care what road course racer we can compare him to. I think SVG will soon be on his own plateau, on his own island, when we start describing maybe the greatest road course racer of all time. I think we could argue to that point right now that it would be somewhere between Martin Truex Jr., A.J. Allmendinger, and Marcus Ambrose. I really would. It would be hard to find better, a better Mount Rushmore than that, right? With SVG added to it, I guess. When you think road course racers, who do you think is the greatest of all time, Taz Taylor?
Greatest of all time. Oh, I definitely would have to put Jeff Gordon up there. I know he was the road course king for quite a while. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Tony Stewart was kind of up there too for road courses. Not
really.
Okay, maybe not. Jeff Gordon was for quite a while. I think if Chase Elliott can win a few more road courses like he used to in the last, before the next-gen car, I think he could arguably put his face in there. Since the next-gen car, he's been competitive, but I don't think he's been race-winning competitive. That's where I think Tyler Reddick and William Byron have stepped up to the plate. Christopher Bell can make that same argument, too.
Yeah, Kyle Busch is definitely a driver that comes to mind. A.J. Allmendinger. You said Chase Elliott. I would say more Kevin Harvick. Marcus Ambrose.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Harvick definitely should be up there.
Yeah. Not really saying. Rusty Wallace, I guess, and Darrell Waltrip. Those 2 names don't really come to mind when it comes to road course racing. But I'm not surprised to see those names listed here. Ricky Rudd, Christopher Bale, Clint Boyer, Mark Martin. How about those names? But to just say that one is the greatest of all time, I'm just not sure that we pinpointed that. And that's what's kind of amazing and awesome about the subject that we're talking about right now with Shane Van Gisbergen. The fact of it is this guy's already, we're 5 races in on a road course, and we're already saying, man, this may be the best road course racer that we've ever seen in NASCAR. And that says a lot. I know that there's guys with talent that can get it done. But
one thing that I think people need to realize that, and SVG has said this too. I think he said this back at COTA, like a couple days after the COTA weekend, that SVG is a road course ringer at heart. Obviously, coming from the V8 supercars because that's all they run over in Australia and whatnot. But the difference between running the V8 Supercars series versus road course racing and NASCAR is that in V8 Supercars, they have track limits, like in Formula One. NASCAR doesn't really have track limits. Well, they do to an extent. Like you can run wide in some of the corners, and NASCAR won't flag you for it unless you're, saying bonsai move and buy like 20 cars in the process, and then NASCAR's kind of like, yeah, no, you're kind of stretching your limit there. We're going to penalize you. But that's the one thing SVG has said, because I remember back in Xfinity COTA race, SVG was a little upset of, I think it was the move that Austin Hill made. I'm trying to remember back then. I remember he was on, I think it was on Corey LaJoie's show he was interviewed on. I'll get to that shortly. He was upset at the move Austin Hill made, and he thought there was like a track limit rule or something like that. And he didn't realize that in NASCAR, there's not really a strict rule of track limits. So once he understood that, he kind of adjusted and was like, all right, well, if there's no such thing as track limits really, then I guess when I need to make the move, I'm just going to do it myself. But he was interviewed on Corey LaJoie's podcast.
Wasn't he happy, was he? No. I think SVG, one thing that I want to take you away from what you're talking about here, Taz Taylor, and I'll let you get back to what you're saying. SVG did a burnout there at the end of the race, and he did it around Austin Hill. And I thought to myself at that point in time, the first win that you got, you received a welcoming celebration. The second win you got, people were, okay, this guy's probably better than what we thought he was. By the third time, nobody's going to celebrate a win with you. Like, nobody's happy for SVG other than SVG. And I think that, maybe he got a false impression of how much support he would receive, because I knew immediately that Austin Hill was going to go after SVG, and it didn't take no more than the post-race interview where he basically announced his displeasure with SVG.
Yeah, they were talking about that on Corey LaJoie's podcast. I think it's called Stacking Pennies. Is that what he calls it?
Yeah.
And I saw a clip of this. Corey LaJoie had SVG on it, and LaJoie said that I will speak for everybody when I say this, but I think we all like the burnout drifting lap that you do for his burnouts. And SVG made it the point that he likes to start his burnouts where most of the fans sit. So he started over, he said at Sonoma, he started his burnout over in turn one where most of the fans are on the top of the hill. And he started his drift lap there, and he noticed Austin Hill went around him and told SVG that he was number one, as we're going to put it there. And SVG made the comment like, oh, I don't want to be like a bad loser, like I kind of want, or a bad winner. I kind of want to be like a good one. And Corey LaJoie was like, there's such thing as a good winner. And SVG was like, kind of like, I mean, like, I don't want to like rub it in like people's faces and stuff like that. I want to celebrate that I won, but I want to like rub it in either. And then when he made the comment of when he saw Austin Hill, because I guess they had their running back at COTA, He saw Austin Hill say he was number one. He kind of decided to do his burnout and drive right past him. And SVG, and they showed this back too, SVG waved Austin Hill saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know, kind of like returning the favor. Oh, and SVG has said it, like, he has nothing against Austin Hill personally. It's just, it's just competition. They're there to compete. They're there to win, and whether you like the moves being made or not, that depends on the driver. And I guess Austin Hill's one of those guys where he likes to dish it but can't receive it.
Yeah, Austin's kind of proved that a lot over his career. You can pretty much hear the belly aching the moment he gets out of a race car when something doesn't go his way. And he's had a lot of success. I think Austin Hill, his entire career has been an underdog story, and he never can seem to catch a break. As a matter of fact, he's been over at RCR for 4 years now, and has had probably the most success in the garage without a call-up, right? We watched other drivers with less success move up the ladder, but Austin has kind of been stuck right where he is, and a lot of that could be, attitude-based, right? Teams are afraid to invest into a driver that, doesn't ever seem to take accountability for his own actions, and I think that could be stunting Austin Hill's growth. Now, I think Austin Hill is a hell of a racer. I think when it comes to road course racing, not road course racing, super speedway racing, that you're crazy to take anybody but Austin Hill. Speaking of road course racing, let's jump back real quick. I'm sorry. Tony Stewart has 8 total wins at a road course, sitting, I think, second to Jeff Gordon on the most wins chart. So I'm sorry that I missed that. If you're a Big Smoke fan, don't come at me. Ricky Rudd sits third with 6. So, but he's tied with Rusty Wallace and Richard Petty as well on that list, and Bobby Allison. So the racer that's still in competition right now is Chase Elliott with 5 wins. But back over to the SVG, look, I didn't watch the Cup race. I hope that you did. I did listen to the Cup race. I listened to it on the radio. That's kind of how I like to watch road course races. I also don't there's several weekends out of the year where I don't punish my family to have to sit in front of a TV and watch certain races, and Sonoma is one of those. It's been so boring over the last few years. It's circled on my calendar kind of as an off weekend. I did watch just a tad bit of the Xfinity race, and I really enjoyed that. I was surprised to see the big one happen in the Xfinity race. A lot of good race cars got tore up in that one. Do I believe right now that the Xfinity series is the best NASCAR series? Yes, and I was I sing the same praise for the Truck Series for several years. As I felt like the Truck Series was the better entertaining series. But honestly, man, what we see week in, week out with the Xfinity Series cars, it is they by far put on a hell of a show. And probably the best show. So we've got, just a few more minutes, I guess. We can round up the hour on any news. We'll start the top of the hour with our power ranking subject, and then we'll just go on into Taz's hot picks and stuff. So we've got just an open board here for a couple of minutes. Taz Taylor, do you have anything that kind of stood out in news this week where Fox is reporting a viewership increase this season? Race Hub is 86. They are gone after this week, I think. I'm not sure that there's not much that we haven't already covered.
So they posted the numbers for Fox viewership in the NASCAR Cup Series this year. 3,369,000 viewers tuned in on average to watch the 24 NASCAR Cup Series season on Fox and FS1. up 1%, including the rain-postponed Daytona 500 and the full 2023 season average on the same networks, 3.38 million there. First year since Fox began airing the Cup Series in 2001 that the Fox season finished up year over year after suffering a weather-affected Daytona 500. The 6 Cup races on FS1 in 2024 averaged 2,389,000, which is up 13% over 2023. That saw 2,123,000. And for the 9 NASCAR Cup races on Fox in 2024, excluding the race postponed Daytona 500, the network was up 4% over 2023, which is 3,773,000 versus 3,622,000. I don't really want to break out the news, but there is a rumor flying around I saw today. I posted in our chat thread, and it concerned the charter deal, that RCR was looking into getting a third charter for their team, and rumor has it that they could possibly grab Noah Gragson and Bass Pro Shops to work out a deal for that to happen.
Man, oh man. How about that?
Again, that's rumor. It's not news, not confirmed. It's a rumor to throw out there to start thinking about.
So does Bass Pro Shops still sponsor the Dillon boys? I haven't seen that on their race car in a while.
Yeah, they still sponsor. I'm pretty sure they still sponsor Austin Dillon. I know they have Truex, which, of course, the whole Truex deal, we don't know if he's going to retire at the end of the year, if he's going to keep on going for one more year. Nobody knows until Truex, which we could probably not know until probably when the playoffs basically start.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's rumors going all around. There's also rumors that they're not going to accept a charter deal, right? That they're not going to accept a deal that they don't want, and they are adamant on making charters a forever deal. I'm not sure. I'm just really not sure how that's going to work. But they have opened up and said that they're going to allow equity to be bought into the charter. So that'll kind of open the door for potential sponsors to maybe buy into the charter system along with the race team. So not only will you have a race team, a race car race team owner, but you could possibly have a sponsor involved in the chartership ownership as well, which could really open up a lot more money, I think, for sponsorship in that case, because they become not just a sponsor of the car, but they can become kind of an ownership as well. So that's an interesting side view of it. But I would bet that they will find an agreement somewhere in the sponsorship. I mean, in the charter agreement. But there is that chance that they will not finalize a deal in time, and so that makes me wonder, like, where these race teams that are out searching for a potential charter, where they actually stand on creating a new team for next season, being that they don't know if they're going to have a charter available, if there's even going to be a charter system there. Obviously, Front Row Motorsports is betting that there's going to be a charter system there. They wouldn't have purchased or spent $25 million on a charter. It's, I've studied the charter sheets for the last, week or so, and I finally figured out a way that I can graph it and just show you that most of the charters have been moved amongst these smaller no-name teams, and it's these smaller no-name teams that are creating the value into these charters. But in a way, on paper, it almost looks like it's manipulated. It almost looks like, between deals between Spire and Colleague and and the 32 go fast teams. I mean, some of these charters have never left where they were originally assigned. And then you look at some numbers and you follow that charter and you're like, holy crap, like this charter has been in more pockets than a freaking quarter at Walmart, you know? It's unreal.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's serious. Like, wow. Right, this is the third time that they've owned a third charter, right? Like, why did you sell one? And if you're going to turn around and buy another one, it makes no sense at all. And so, really, I think that the value of it is over-exaggerated based off of these smaller teams swapping and swapping each other for an irrelevant charter. You know, of course, if you're not a top team, you're not up in the top of the standings, so you're not generating all of that money. It's unreal, man. It's just unreal. And I'll have that, or I'll try to post that graph that I get there sometime at the end of this week. But I don't really have much more on the news side and stuff, Taz, if you want to go ahead and open up power rankings.
Alrighty, folks. We got the power rankings here for tonight. The last time we did power rankings, and it was actually the first time we did power rankings this year, was all the way back in March 26th, where it was literally, ironically enough, because we already talked about this with the Austin Hill versus SVG deal, it happened the couple days after the COTA race, the Circuit America race. So we'll go through our 15 teams, rank them obviously 15 through number 1. Obviously from March 26th to now, here we are, June 11th. There's been quite some changes. I'll start with the bottom 4 teams, being that they did not move up or down on this ladder. From March to here we are, June, 3 months later.
Right.
15 is Wood Brothers, 14 is Rick Ware, 13 is Colleague, and number 12 is Spire. Neither one of those 4 teams has had anything shocking in terms of improvement. I mean, there's a couple spotlights in there you can put in there, like Justin Haley with Rick Ware putting in some top 15, top 10 runs, which is not something we can really seriously sit here and say in the past we've talked about it, unless it's a super speedway. In terms of Rick Ware racing, the only spotlight I can really give Spire is Carson Hocevar. In all honesty, he's shocked me more than I probably thought of. I did not think he would turn that 77 car around to be as halfway decently competitive as we have seen it in years past.
I tell you what, he's going to send Corey LaJoy looking for employment if he keeps on doing what he's doing. I kind of don't have any arguments with the bottom 4. I do feel like Rick Ware's probably made enough advancement to jump Colleague, but it's such a close. And look, those 4 names, Spire, Colleague, Rick Ware, and Wood Brothers, those are the main players in this swapping of charter systems. So it's almost like you sell the charter to your other guys so that you don't risk it being taken away from NASCAR or something. I don't know. I'm still studying it, but I'll have more of that down as the season progresses. Let's talk about JTG going down 1 spot. We're looking at JTG at the number 11 spot. Ricky Stenhouse just hasn't had a decent run this year. What does his top 10 look like? This is one of the teams where it's just a 1-car team, and so one driver is making or breaking their move. They're down 1. Well, what's going on with Ricky Stenhouse right now?
I'm not sure if it's driver performance or if it's kind of like a team performance issue. I mean, they were number 10 3 months ago, and as you said, now they're down one spot to number 11. So it's not like, in all honesty, no, they're not. It's not like they're improving. I mean, yeah, they fell one spot, but I don't think they're like entirely failing. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's something to do with maybe the Kroger sponsorship box that could be a distraction, or is it a driver issue, something going on, or is it like a team issue? Is like the pit crew not working? Is the driver to crew chief pair not working? There's something amiss there. I mean, obviously, we're only seeing Stenhouse be competitive in super speedways because that's pretty much what he best excels at. And we can't really deny that either. I mean, his wins with Roush were super speedway wins.
Right. Yeah. Well, he had a pretty good Xfinity career. Ricky's not a one talent guy. I do believe he has what it takes to win it. The capability of winning at almost any racetrack. I don't think that the funding is there. I think that as an organization that knows that their time is limited and there's probably not much being put into the operation by the owners that are exiting the building. So, I'm not as surprised that Ricky this year, the only time that we've talked about him is by throwing a hater on Kyle Busch. So, outside of that, we don't really have much to talk about with Ricky Stenhouse, and that's just typically unusual. Normally Ricky finds a way to salvage top 5 finishes and top 10 finishes at places like Bristol, Richmond, a couple of the 1.5 miles, and we got a new 1.5 mile racetrack that we're coming to, or mile racetrack, I guess, this weekend in Iowa. The Cup racers have never been there before, but Ricky's had success there, so we'll see how well he does. But also, we got to bring into account that there's a certain group of Chevrolet drivers that have completely surpassed the rest of the Chevrolet group, and we know that Hendrick has put themselves in a whole new area code versus the other Chevrolet drivers. So Ricky's got a few races left where he can probably make an improvement, especially with who's at number 10. Now, that's the shocker of this year. I really feel like our number 10, Legacy Motor Club, down 3. Like, I was in high hopes and expectations with Eric Jones coming into the season. John Hunter Nemechek got a quick start in the 42. It made the 42 look like it was, night and day versus what Noah Gregson had that car doing last year. And then the big fall happened. And, of course, Eric Jones has been out of the race car with an injury. Corey Himes stepped in. He did a pretty decent job for a sub-standard car. Jimmy Johnson has shown no capabilities of doing anything relevant in the 84 machine. So Legacy Motor Club, probably my biggest disappointment rolling into the mid-season of 2024. Like, I had a lot of expectations for Eric Jones to finally have what he needs. Like, I've been saying this guy's a superstar for 8 years now. Something's got to give, or I've got to change my opinion of this guy. I can't keep claiming that Eric Jones is the supposed superstar, and, we're talking about them being, 10th in power rankings. So, definitely something's got to give there, Chaz Taylor.
Yeah, Legacy is one of the 2 teams that had the biggest moves, regardless if it's up or down, through the rankings in a matter of 3 months. Obviously, Legacy, biggest mover going down the rankings in terms of going down 3 spots. But I'm right with you. Like, beginning of the season, like, I with how they were performing, I was like, wow, I thought Eric Jones, could probably finally push through with this team that he's been believing in ever since he signed with, I think it was at the time, Petty Motorsports, before they rebranded to Petty GMS, that eventually turned into Legacy Motor Club. And then you throw in John Hunter Nemechek into the mix, and as you said, he turned that 42 car around to start the season. Like, it was a night and day. I mean, you had Noah Gregson in there. You also had Ty Dillon to throw in as well. So it was kind of like, wow, we started to see the 42 team. And then Jones' injury, Nemechek, I don't know what happened with him in the most recent of races. So I would love to see them try to do better than where they are now. Is it going to happen? I'm starting to question if they really will. I don't know at this point. And the other thing we have to think about, too, is with Eric Jones and the injury deal, is that we've seen drivers in this next-gen car have gone through injuries before, and you don't always come back swinging for the fences right away. Look at Chase Elliott last year, for example. Snowboard injury, came back. He wasn't as competitive as we saw him. Alex Bowman, same deal with the 48 when he had a concussion back in the first year of the next-gen car, and then last year when he broke his back with the sprint car incident, he came back and he was not the Alex Bowman we are accustomed to seeing.
Right. Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit more of a struggle for these guys to come back from injury. Other guys go off and win championships, like Brad Keselowski, and, I was going to say Denny Hamlin, but I'm glad I didn't.
Kyle Busch.
Because he doesn't have a championship. Yeah, Kyle Busch. Denny Hamlin's won some big races injured, but can't seem to win that championship. But so that is Legacy Motor Club down 3 spots. Down 3 spots to 10th. The next team that we have on the list is, I think at a time last year was maybe ranked 5th, as high as 5th. Now they are down 1 from the 8th spot, but they have a driver that's very capable, a Hall of Fame driver, a championship driver, and then the other guys, like, his name's Rhinestone Cowboy. So we're talking about RCR. RCR, a two-car team. One car never finds, I don't know how to say that. RCR has not been one of the top-notch organizations over the last 10 years. But last year, and starting a few years ago with Tyler Reddick, things seemed to be turning in the right direction. Now, all of a sudden, somebody has come in, and even with $110 million that's been reported as sponsorship money rolling into Richard Childress Racing, something is not right. Something is not working, and Kyle Busch freaking sucks, okay? And he's one of the best drivers ever, and this guy literally sucks week in, week out. What in the world is going on at Richard Childress Racing? Why are we talking about one of the most dominant drivers ever in the Cup Series? He's not old. He's not in his 40s. This guy's still in his 30s, still should be in his prime. But we're talking ninth on power rankings list. He sucks just as bad as Austin Dillon right now. What's going on at RCR, man?
Well, I can't really explain for Austin Dillon. I mean, he's garbage anyway, and when he wins, it's freaking literally by the skin of his teeth or the luck of the hat pulling his name like a magician pulling a rabbit out of the hat. A magic trick. Kyle Busch, and I I don't want to say it's driver talent. I feel like he's facing a lot of bad luck. And I also believe he's also suffered in quite a few races that he was legitimately competitive in, that we expected him to be competitive in. He had pit road issues. And literally there was one race where he was like top 5 all race long, and he drove from the back of the field to the front, I think like 2 or 3 times because of a pit road incident, whether it was one of his pit guys, kind of screwing it up for him, or he was speeding up pit road, or his crew chief never told him he was over hit box line. I know people will say, well, Kyle Busch should have known better, but at the same time, that kind of falls on the spotter/crew chief that's supposed to, come out and know how far into the pit box he is and if he's exceeded his limits. But it's just, I think Kyle Busch at this point, I don't think it's the driver at this point. I think it's the team itself. I don't know if it's, I've already mentioned the pit crew deal. I don't know what they got to do to fix that. Maybe fire them and hire some new folks. They've also had some pit crew changes amongst the RCR organization. Or is Kyle Busch not pairing well with his crew chief? Or is something else maybe distracting Kyle Busch in a way? I don't know. This is not... I shouldn't say this is not the Kyle Busch we're not used to seeing, because in a way we kind of have in his last 2 years with Joe Gibbs. He kind of fell off the face of the earth and wasn't really winning we were used to seeing. Just wish Kyle Busch has something for RCR, and I don't know if RCR is going to be giving it back to him or what.
Yeah, there's problems at RCR, and they need to get their act together. Andy Petrie needs to find out if he's competition director, he needs to work on his job and get these guys back competitive again, because it is unreal to have a talent like Kyle Busch just wasting away in your garage and not winning races. This is what I feared last year would happen: a slow start, a tipsy start, problems start happening, and then Kyle Busch blows up and explodes. I don't foresee this relationship going past next year. I know a lot of people would probably be surprised if I said that I wouldn't be surprised if there was a buyout at the end of this year. And if he had a place to go, I'm sure he would be willing to go as quickly as he can, because I don't think that he is happy at Richard Childress Racing. I may be wrong, but I think that a guy who's had all the, drove for the 2 most dominant teams in NASCAR, Hendrick and Gibbs, you're over there at what do they call Welcome, North Carolina. It's not so welcoming, It's probably dreadful for him right now, knowing that he's not able to have the type of career that he's been celebrated for in the past. So hopefully they'll get their crap together over there at RCR. If not, we should see a driver change pretty soon. And I don't think it'll be Austin Dillon. I think it will be Kyle Busch trying to find a way out of there. SHR up 3. That is so disappointing, man. Not the fact that they're finally climbing the power rankings. This is a team that we've seen as high as 2nd on our power rankings chart over the years. I'm not sure SHR has ever sat at the very top. I know they've been close to it. We'd have to go back to COVID year and see if they did top out in that 2020 season as maybe the strongest team in the Cup Series. But I just don't foresee them past that 2nd spot. But now they've been as bad as, obviously, I guess 11th So now they're back up to 8, and they're closing their doors. Have we topped out here with SHR? Of course, one of only 3 4-car teams. We've watched Noah Gragson kind of hold the point for SHR. Of course, Josh Berry's not having a terrible season. He's not having a star-stellar season. I think that there's still room to grow. And a lot of times on these rookies, we see a second half that's a lot different than the first half, and I think that could be the case with Josh Berry as long as everything's in place. As I've heard through the rumor mill, the 4-car is being shopped on its own as an entire team. So they're looking to basically move the entire 4 team to, just a different owner, maybe the same card number and everything. I'm not sure how that's going to go about. Normally, the single-digit card numbers don't last for very long, so I'm sure Josh Berry would probably want to keep his hand on the number 4. But we'll have to see how that goes about and what happens there, if maybe that's the charter that Front Row Motorsports oh, my gosh. Make sure that ain't Leanne out there. Did Leanne come in? This is – I would love to celebrate SHR and their improvement in the power rankings, but unfortunately it doesn't really matter where they are, being that team will no longer – that organization will no longer be in the Cup Series at the end of this year. So it's really not much to prove, as they have made a lot of improvement. I think going from that 11 spot to 8 spot, that's a big improvement, Taz Taylor.
So one thing that, I think in all honesty, I think SHR, I think in all honesty, they probably could be 1 or 2 spots better if they did not get hit with those serious penalties to start the year. I mean, at one point, I don't remember which one of the 4 SHR cars it was, but they were like in the negative in points. That's how bad it was. And I think I'm going to put a little bit more hope into this team. I don't think that we've seen all of what they have. Like, I don't think number 8 will be the top they'll get to. I would like to see them put to at least number 7, maybe number 6 will be a giant win. But
you get Josh Berry, and Noah Gragson in victory lane, maybe Chase Briscoe too, and we could see them at number 5.
Well, I was definitely going to put Gregson and Briscoe in there. I mean, we've seen Briscoe win before with SHR. Gregson has turned that 10-car team completely around. I mean, doing a lot better than what Danica, and no offense to Almirola, I know Almirola's won with the 10-car. I think Gregson, on a consistent basis, has made that team more competitive than Almirola has. And that's not a knock on saying that Almirola was terrible. No, I don't think he was terrible. I think he was he was a good driver. I don't think he was great. Like, I wouldn't sit there and think that Eric Almirola was an easy-on favorite every single week. I think he was a contender every week. Oh, easily. I thought he was. But I think a couple of his wins were kind of, lucky that fell into silver platter. Like, he was kind of handed the silver platter, just got lucked out with it.
Right.
But I think Josh Berry could, sneak something in. I don't really want to say a win, but probably could sneak in some great performances, as we've seen in a couple races. I think Darlington was one of them where he finished second. He's had, the short tracks, benefit him, his driving style, because that's where he came from. He's got a stellar crew chief in Rodney Childers, who I would be amazed if nobody hires him as a crew chief next year.
Oh, that's where I believe the rumors are that whole team is being shopped together. So,
AHI.
We got to speed this up a little bit because we're already at 8:30 or 9:30 your time. Front row has moved up 2 spots. Michael McDowell has announced his departure from Front Row Motorsports. Todd Gillian has announced his extension. Front Row Motorsports has announced that they bought a third charter. They do not currently have a third driver on their roster, so that makes 2 drivers that they have to fill seats with, Todd Gillian obviously being the latter. Tell me what's going on. Front Row is up to, they've been consistent. They've been one of the better consistent Ford teams. What got them to the 7th spot, Taz Taylor? Maybe a couple of polls by Michael McDowell?
Primarily Michael McDowell. He's consistently running a lot better since this team has become basically a Tier 1 team. Todd Gilliland has had some good flashes, especially to start the year. I don't think Todd Gilliland is going to slow down as long as Front Row stays a Tier 1 team. I think with Gilliland, obviously for next year, they haven't assigned him to a number for next year, so he could move from the 38 to the 34, which it seems like for Front Row, the 34 is the number 1 car. So if that's the case for next year, I would hope to God Gilliland, puts the 34 in places that Dowell consistently has been putting it. I think it's ambitious of Front Row to move to a 3-car team, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what drivers they fill in the 2 empty spots with.
Right. I think one of those drivers could be Josh Berry. I think the other driver could be Chase Briscoe or Noah Gregson. I would hope to see those 2 drivers transfer over to the as a Ford, driver. I don't want to see Noah Gregson giving back to the dark side. I don't want to see Noah Gregson wind up at Richard Childress. So I do want to see Josh Berry have a successful career, whether or not that would be at Front Row. Front Row has a plan. Bob Jenkins has a plan, or else he wouldn't have made the moves that he's made already. The one thing about it is we're talking about Front Row Motorsports every week, week in, week out, and whether or not that's Michael McDowell's success, the success of the organization, or just all around, being a Tier 1 team and it's paying its dividends. Either way, Front Row Motorsports is being talked about a whole lot more now than what they ever have been in the past. Let's go to Penske at 6. I mean, come on, man. They won back-to-back championships, okay? But they have been irrelevant at the racetrack this 2024 race season.
Yep. Pagano has put on probably one of the worst seasons he's had in probably since his rookie years. Blaney, I thought Blaney would have scored a win or 2 by now by how he started the season, and he hasn't won yet. And he should have, let me put it this way. Ever since Austin Cindric has joined, and I said this last week, ever since Cindric has joined the Cup Series side for Penske, his 2 wins have come at the cost of Ryan Blaney, the Daytona 500 2 years ago, and Gateway that we saw 2 weeks ago. Blaney should have won Gateway. Blaney was in a photo 3-wide finish at Atlanta. I mean, I don't know what to do with Blaney. He's a defending champion. Like, I'm hoping he gets a win or 2 somewhere. I don't really want to see him try to pressure himself for Daytona. mean, I know that's one of his stronger tracks. But I know there's got to be something for Blaney for him to capitalize on, walking himself into the playoffs with at least a win, And I don't know what more I got to say. They haven't really improved. They haven't really sucked.
Yeah.
Is it
This
terrible?
is the best and worst number 6 that we've ever had in power rankings. And I think Joe Gibbs has even fell back to the 6th spot before. But this is the best worst team. Like, they have no reason at all to be this shitty.
They don't. Given the success that given the, I'll put it this way: given the success that not only Logano has had, Blaney as well. And I mean, I understand with Blaney that he's basically like a win a season type of guy, pretty much. But when you're coming off a season that he had last year, winning Martinsville, giving him so much momentum, he finished second place at Phoenix. That he nearly could have won, but Chastain had the better strategy of it all. And Blaney won the championship, obviously. And he's been on the door to win races to start the year, and I don't know what's gone into him.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know who's got the book on Penske right now.
Hendrick lucked out.
Yeah, that was and Blaney. So Penske would have gotten the win regardless. That's one. Maybe they're getting things turned around. Ford had a slow start, but Ford's also been the most dominant car out on the racetrack the last 4 weekends in a row. So, and that hasn't necessarily been the case for the Penske organization. What?
Oh, help you on the full screen protector on.
All right, so let's go to
let's hit our top 5.
Cows. Yeah, top 5, man. Track cows down 2 spots. This is what I feared when people started trying to calm Ross Chastain down. You never want to take a driver who is willing to stand up on the wheel and take that away from him. That's the uniqueness of that driver, and it's probably the recipe to success for that driver. Did we watch track cows rise too quick? What? I don't know how to even describe where Trackhouse is right now. I don't think they're a number 5 team. I think that that's giving them a couple of spots that maybe they don't deserve. Maybe this team should be the team that has fallen from grace, because if you knock them back 2 more spots, that would be a total of 4 down that they are. Trackhouse coming up, whether we continue to recognize them as a powerhouse team, top 5 powerhouse team, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that if we don't see something come this mid-season stretch here. Of course, that's where they found a lot of success. They started out slow last year. Then all of a sudden they won Nashville. Then they went to Chicago, won there. All of that can turn around this week at Iowa. But right now, this number 5 team really looks like it should be somewhere in the gutter.
Well, you have Suarez who won the 3-wide photo finish at Atlanta. That's their one win there. Let's keep in mind that there are 6 teams that have at least one win. We mentioned Penske already. Trackhouse is the next one in line. I think if Penske can go on the upswing while capitalizing on Trackhouse's downfall, I think these 2 teams could swap somewhere down the road. The only saving grace I could see Trackhouse having is Chastain, getting a win or 2 somewhere down the road. I think Trackhouse entirely as a whole dipped their toes into too much crap in a short amount of time. I've said it for numerous weeks. And I've said it for numerous weeks. They dipped their toe in sports car racing. They've dipped their toe in motorcycle racing. You've signed more drivers than what they can really hold. I think they're spending more money instead of investing what is making it work, which is their Cup Series team. And I get you have a driver development deal with SVG. I'm completely for it, in all honesty, because maybe they want to invest in expanding and put him in there. That's great. They hired a young driver in Zane Smith that they could probably spend his money's worth for like 5 to 10 years if they want to go long term with him. At that point, you're rushing him up, because if he played his cards right, Zane Smith could have been an Xfinity Series contender. That could have led him to being a Cup Series regular contender. I mean, he went from contender big time in trucks with front row to all of a sudden he's a crapshoot in Cup Series.
Right. Yeah, and that's not. Daniel Suarez is what Daniel Suarez is, right? But Ross Chastain was something completely different, and now it seems to be that he's cooled off, much like his teammate Daniel Suarez. Not sure what's going on at Trackhouse. I do think that they have too many irons in the fire, as you said. They are a powerhouse team. Whether or not they continue to be a powerhouse team, I think the next 2 months will really tell that tale. We've seen Ross Chastain. We've seen him do be in some pretty good races so far this year, but I don't think he's got very many laps led. Does he, Taz? Have we looked at that? How many laps has he led this year? Ross has just not been relevant.
Oh boy, Ross Chastain. I'm working on. Laps led. Here we go. Let's see. Ross Chastain has 118 laps led this year, and that's ranking kind of mid-pack.
Right. I mean, that's not even a full race, and we're halfway through the season almost. Just not typical. Ross has been a lot better driver than this so far. This season has really been, you thought with the big time sponsorship rolling in that things were, they would hopefully start the season out fast. Like I said, no need to panic yet. This team started out slow last year, but we're looking at a team that the next time we come to the power rankings, either they're going to be moved up, or the scary thought is they could move down, because this team is on the way down, not necessarily on the way up. All that could change this week. Like I said, we're going to a new track that hasn't been raced by the Cup Series before, so you would almost expect Joey Logano to win this race for sure, but that's coming in Taz's hot take. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But Ross Chastain, this may be favorable for the type of package that they run, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more even competition amongst the Chevy drivers instead of just one-sided with the likes of Hendrick Motorsports. So number 4, I don't know if number 4 would have been here a few weeks ago, but here they are, and they've moved up a spot.
Yeah, RFK Racing. Brad Keselowski finally gets a giant monkey off his shoulder, being winless for so long. Ever since he moved from Penske to RFK, becoming part owner with Roush. Chris Buescher has had quite a few second and third place finishes, knocking on the door for the win. So, I mean, I think RFK, slow start this year, but they are up there running. Obviously, they're in the conversation just about every week in terms of them at least competing for top 10s. Obviously, now they're easily coming into the conversation for top 5s, and they're starting to slowly creep into being race-winning contenders on a weekly basis. Regardless if it's Brad Keselowski or Chris Buescher, I feel like both of them at this point are about as equally good. I don't think one excels more than the other for where they both stand right now.
Yeah, Buescher's going to get him a win at a road course, and it's just bound to happen. He was holding the top spot there for quite a few laps. Unfortunately, Larson and Truex were just a tad bit better than him. Keselowski's never really been known for being a road course racer, but he had a good finish. Plus, coming off the Darlington win, things are moving in the right direction. Obviously, RFK deserves to be the top 4 team. Their hard work, dedication, their resilience, all of that has mattered. So happy Brad Keselowski finally got that win, and at a track like Darlington, where that's a tough man's track, and Keselowski proved that he had what it took to take that win. Here's one that I think some people would argue, what have they done for me lately? The 2311 team. What they fail to realize is Bubba Wallace. Like, he's probably almost the main reason for the success or the continuous drive up the ladder for the 2311 team. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about 2311 being in the 6th spot, 7th spot. Now we're talking about them moving up to the 3rd spot. Tell me what's changed and what continues to improve over at Airspeed, and why we are seeing an upward tick in their power rankings.
So looking at the two-car team, you have Reddick and Bubba Wallace. Tyler Reddick gotten the win this year so far for 2311. He's 4th in the point standings right now. And Bubba Wallace, if you look at in terms of or 3rd-car teams, when you get to that point, minus your Hendrick and your Gibbs, because obviously those 2 teams are on another level. Really, other than Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace is basically right with Chris Buescher. Has his finishes been as ecstatic as Buescher's in terms of 2nd and 3rd place finishes? No, but do they necessarily have to be? Not necessarily.
No.
I mean,
no.
Track
just doesn't need to be driving them down.
Their second driver for Trackhouse is 19th in standings. Bubba's 14th. Buescher's 13th. So I mean, Bubba's right there. So I think he's on the uphill swing. Obviously, as I mentioned with Reddick, the guy can just drive. The track suits him well. Obviously, road courses suit him. When you put him on a multi-lane track, such as tracks like Texas, for say Atlanta,
Nashville,
not Atlanta, Nashville, Homestead. When we get there later this year, that's where Tyler Reddick succeeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's basically Kyle Larson 2.0. I wouldn't say he's Tyler Reddick can jump in anything with 4 wheels and a motor, and you expect him to win like Kyle Larson per se. But in a Cup Series car, he's kind of like a Kyle Larson 2.0. Like Kyle Larson can put that car anywhere he wants and make it work, as long as the car suits to him. Reddick is the same deal.
Very interesting that you say that, considering Tyler Reddick could have just as easily wound up at Hendrick Motorsports as he did Richard Childress Racing, based off the year that he drove for Junior Motorsports. They wrote Tyler Reddick off, I think, a year too early, and they didn't maximize the potential talent that Tyler Reddick had. I remember at Homestead with Dale Jr. and Kelly both basically just with their hands over their head, because they realized celebrating a championship with a driver that was not going to be returning to your race team was almost embarrassing because, I mean, the kid proved it. He proved that he was capable, and he's done nothing but prove his capability since. And Tyler Reddick, you made an interesting statement there, and we'll have to follow that because I think this is the first place I've been known over the years to make bold statements, and I think that I've taught my co-host, Taz Taylor, that sometimes it is the bold that sets you apart from the rest. And he just made a very bold statement. He said Tyler Reddick is the next Kyle Larson. And so that means that 2311 has got to make sure that Tyler Reddick has what he needs to be that superstar. I hope that 2311 can offer that to Tyler Reddick, but it almost seems like maybe Tyler's got to go to the big team to prove that. It almost feels like Tyler Reddick is stuck in this Kyle Larson, Chip Ganassi era where you see that the kid has what it takes, but it's just not formulated. It's just not buttoned up enough to get him there. And that's a bold statement, Taz Taylor. I want that recorded. I want that process to everybody in the world of what you just said, because I believe it with everything that Tyler Reddick has the potential to be a Kyle Larson. Does 2311 have the potential to carry such a caliber driver? That's the question. We may never see 2311 above this spot because of the top two teams that we're about to talk about. And, of course, you know what top two teams those are. We don't even have to even go into explanation of these two teams because they could basically be left eye, right eye. But Tyler Reddick feels like he's stuck in a Chip Ganassi type situation with Kyle Larson where he has the potential. He has the know-how. But does he have the people and does he have the equipment? That's going to be the question. There lies the $1 million question. And Bubba Wallace, I believe, has every bit of success for the 2311 power ranking status. You have to point it at Bubba and say, look, this guy's made that much improvement. He's carrying the back half of this race team up the power rankings to where they are in third. I'm happy 2311's here. To be third in power rankings shows somewhere that Michael Jordan has made a good investment. And this team that was just, put together for Bubba Wallace's, how do I say this, sympathy tour, they've made some hell of moves to bring in Tyler Reddick. Of course, Kurt Busch is lost. I would love to see Kurt Busch added back into the mix. I just don't feel like we're done with the name Kurt Busch yet. I feel like that there's going to be a coming out of retirement party pretty soon here, and I would love to see a return back to Cup racing by Kurt Busch. I think that he still had a lot left to give us in the Cup Series, but I understand the stable's full, and Bubba Wallace is doing a hell of a job. No need to worry about a driver replacement in the 23 car right now. Bubba's definitely earned his keep. But that leads us to the top two, and we're running out of time quickly. So, it's not much to talk about. We did have one guy, the number two team was the number one team, but now, Gibbs, Hendrick is the top dog team. And that's you look at the win column and you see the wins for Hendrick versus the wins for Gibbs, and it's a no-brainer. Hendrick is the number one organization. They are set milestones apart from everybody else. And it's very aggravating that they have such an advantage over not just their own manufacturing teams, but also over everybody. And they're almost elite. Maybe not a leap and a bound, but a leap for sure over Joe Gibbs Racing right now. Tell us what separates these two teams from first and second.
So, obviously, 3 months ago, Gibbs won, Hendrick 2. 3 months later, it's Hendrick 1, Gibbs 2. The separation of these two teams, Gibbs can make the argument being that they have all 4 of their drivers in the top 10 of the point standings. They have 5 wins amongst the organization between 2 drivers, and Hamlin and Christopher Bell. Whereas Hendrick, they have 1 driver outside the top 10 in points, but he's in 11th. That's Alex Bowman. They have 7 wins amongst 3 drivers. So I kind of feel like there's a little bit more wide variety, I guess you can say, lack of better terms, or why Hendrick has the 1 spot.
Do what, Taz? I'm sorry, I may have missed that. I actually hung up.
So Hendrick has the 1 spot for Gibbs because if you look at the win column and how many drivers carry those wins, Gibbs, while they have all 4 drivers in the top 10 in the points, have 5 wins amongst between 2 drivers. That's Hamlin and Christopher Bell. Hendrick, on the other hand, they have 1 driver outside the top 10, but he's in 11th in points. That's Alex Bowman. Again, he's knocking on the door for top 10. But Hendrick has the most wins of all organizations right now, with 7, and they have 7 wins amongst 3 drivers, and Larson, Byron, and Chase Elliott.
Yep. So,
a little bit more
you look at who's worse, Alex Bowman, or who would you rather have as your 4th car, Alex Bowman or Ty Gibbs? Right now, you would have to pick Alex Bowman. I know that would be a shock to a lot because of Ty Gibbs' recent success and newfound whatever. But, look, after the struggles he had this past weekend, I mean, he sounded like a little titty baby again. So I'm not sure if we've actually found the Ty Gibbs that I believe the potential that he has. So no big surprise. Hendrick Motorsports, top of the power rankings. Give them their golden freaking horseshoe. I guess they deserve it or whatever. But it's definitely aggravating that a team that gets all the special treatment, always seems to be the dominant team of the series. But hey, maybe Gibbs can get things together with Christopher Bell and Martin Truex Jr. Just a couple wins by either of those drivers would definitely catapult their standings and their power rankings, and we'll just hope for the best here in the next month or so that we're able to see that out of the Joe Gibbs organization. I am anybody but Hendrick right now. I just piss on Hendrick Motorsports. I just can't stand it. I hate even mentioning their name in our podcast. And people are going to come at me and say, "Why you hate her? Why you hate her? Why you hate her?" Look, I like competition. And I don't like one guy just running away with it. If I wanted to do that, hell, we'd talk dirt track racing because we all know how hard it is for a guy who's Formula One racing, right? I mean, come on. I mean, but even in dirt racing, Taz, it's either been Ricky Thornton Jr. or Davenport, right? Who's the third guy? Bobby Pierce? It's literally, that's the way it's been all season. And that's the way it's been for the last few years. So, I like variety in the Cup Series. That's what they told us this new car was going to bring. And now all of a sudden in year freaking 3, Hendrick Motorsports has 7 wins and RFK has 1. It doesn't make any sense. Joe Gibbs only has 2 wins or something, 3 wins. It's unreal, man. It's unreal that a team is given that much advantage. And, yeah, they have a hell of a talented racing group. But, man, You said what's at Hendrick versus what's at Gibbs. There shouldn't be a 4-win difference between the 2 organizations at all. So, NASCAR, you used to give a little bit to the Fords, you used to give a little bit to the Pontiacs when something was off keen and it wasn't it wasn't maximized to be an even aero package. Well, let's do something now, right? Let's not Hendrick off the hill a little bit and find out where he's damn cheating and give these other guys a chance to catch up. But that's our power rankings. Hendrick crowned the king once again. Taz Taylor, I know I've had you talking a lot tonight. We actually somehow fell behind schedule here, so we're going to have to hurry through Taz's hot picks.
All right, so for hot picks for Iowa, this is the first ever Cup Series appearance at Iowa. Xfinity and trucks have ran here before, so I kind of had to change my approach a little bit to get a starting lineup for hot picks this time around. So with that being said, for favorites, I have listed William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson. For contenders, I have listed Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher. For the underdogs, there's probably a few names, or there's probably one name that I don't think has ever been on here before, and a couple names that have popped up here and there once or twice. Noah Gragson, John Hunter Nemechek, and Josh. I've had a look at Xfinity stats and had a look at some betting odds to kind of try to persuade some of my decisions.
Well, it's funny. I'm looking over at the Vegas odds, and they have Vail ranked number 1 at a plus 400. I've never seen a plus 400, but Vail is in that top spot. Of course, Larson is in the second spot with a plus 550. Then it's Hamlin at a 700. Ryan Blaney at an 850, Martin Truex at a 900, and Joey Logano at 1,000.
Well, we got Byron and Larson in the favorites. We have to throw Hamlin. We got to put in our big three in this list somewhere. Obviously, what were the other drivers he threw in there? Truex, Logano, and Blaney?
Yes. So it's Bell, Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, Truex, and Logano.
God, in all honesty, I would feel better putting Truex in the favorites than the two Penske guys, especially Logano.
Well, I think I have to beg to differ because the one guy that always wins the inaugural races is who?
Oh, you're throwing that curveball into the hat there. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, and if my pick isn't submitted at 8 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow, and it else decides to jump ship on me with Logano, we will have issues. I promise. I repeat, if my email comes in at 8 o'clock, mine better be counted because I'm stating it right free here that Joey Logano should be on that favorite list because look, I mean Logano has he's got the receipts, man. He has the receipts. He shows you that this guy for some reason is extremely dominant at racetracks that we don't normally go to or one-time events or special events. I don't know why. I don't know how, but it's always Joey Logano.
All right. I'll give you that one. All right, so we'll throw Logano in the favorites for that reason. Throws Truex and Blaney in the contender side of things. Underdogs for the tip of the cap, I'm throwing in Bubba Wallace. Being that in the Xfinity series, he finished in the top 10 4 out of 6 races he's been in. Oh God, geez. I don't really know who else to throw in there. Yes. No. You know what, Chris? I'm throwing it in. I say a third SHR driver should be an underdog. You know why? Because he's won at Iowa in the Xfinity Series. I know it's for a different team. Ryan Preece.
Oh, wow. Okay, all right. We can let that one slide. And we did put in Hamlin, right? He's a contender, right?
Hamlin is a favorite. I mean, we had Byron and Larson to start. We can't leave Hamlin, who's part of the big three, off the list.
Right. So our favorites are maxed out.
Favorite, actually are thrown in. I mean, if you want to throw in some names in there, our list is full. But we have Byron, Bell, Larson, Hamlin, Logano as the favorites. Contenders, we have Chase, Reddick, Buescher, Truex, Blaney. Underdogs, we have 3 SHR guys, Gregson, Berry, Preece. And then we threw in 2 Toyotas of John Hunter Nemechek and Bubba Wallace.
No room for Brett Keselowski, but he's definitely one to watch. The way that RFK, we've got a team that's sitting 4 in power rankings right now. Brett Keselowski should be one to watch, just based off of how his performance was at Darlington. I think that these tracks will race each other similarly. So watch for BK Bad Brad to be a contender, whether or not he's on that list or not. But, hey, man, I think that was the smoothest hot picks we've ever done. We want to thank you guys for listening to the show tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the power rankings section. Of course, that is a show in itself. We have to save that show. I think last year we did it every fifth Tuesday. This year we've kind of saved it more for slow news weeks and whatnot. So we don't have a definite time of when we're going to come back to power rankings. It will probably be the week before we return back to racing during our 2-week off week session. So I figure we'll take that first week off and then come back the second week, or vice versa, one or the other. So we can either close out a show or open a show. It doesn't matter for that 2-week vacation. But there will be a week off there for us when we come up to that moment. But thank you guys for listening to the show. Taz Taylor, if you want to help send us to the house, man.
All right, we want to thank everyone for listening along to Race Chat Live here on Blog Talk Radio. If you ever missed us live, go check out any form of podcast, you name it, you can think of it. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker. Search the 110 Nation. You'll find not only our shows, but our Thursday night shows, Safety to Success, hosted by Jared Hudson. You'll also have our Wednesday night shows, the 110 Nation Sports shows, hosted by Jason, Mr. CJ Sports, and Mario from Carolina Sports Plus. Don't forget to like our Facebook pages, Race Chat Live and the 110 Nation Sports. And don't forget to subscribe to the 110 Nation Sports Show. We are on the road to getting to 100 subscribers over there. You'll catch our full podcasts or even clips, little sneak peek previews of what our shows are pretty much like. And, of course, we'll see you at the same bat time, same bat place next Tuesday night, p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Central. This has been the Caution Flag of Racing Radio. Chris Creighton on the Tasmanian Devil Flaggers. Taz Taylor saying good night. We'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Good night, everybody. Good night.